Now let's talk about what's happening politically in our country. The headlines today: how Ruto Raila dialogue deal was brokered. The Standard says that international calls to request for live streaming of the talks. Politicians burnt midnight oil to ensure the president and the Azimio leader enter truce, and they are kept in the know. The Nation says negotiators have been named as Ruto Raila teams deep in food, as what we've just heard in the news with Dennis Aseto, the leader of the majority in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, saying, we can discuss this, we cannot discuss that. CT, there was a headline in the Star saying the same kind of similar stories. The teams have been named, others have not. What was it?
Yes, they were saying Raila unveils team as Ruto's side talk stuff.
Okay.
You know, Eric, I have to make a comment here. I find it particularly and peculiarly interesting, the comment that is being associated with one Kimani Ichung'wah.
Which one?
That this issue of power sharing. Does he not understand that the Constitution as is currently constituted, Chapter 1, that is a power sharing declaration?
Which one?
We the people. That one. When you delegate power, what do you think you are doing?
You're not sharing.
You are sharing. That is precisely what it means. I have given it to you. It's on my behalf. It is sharing. I've allocated it.
Have you delegated it to somebody to share it with somebody else?
Actually, they're sharing it with you.
No, that is with you. Have you delegated it to somebody to share it with someone else?
Everybody else, including those in the opposition, are in that deal because they are Kenyans and they are citizens. So they are sharing it with those people whether they like it or not.
Umeitafutia mbali, your handshake umeitafutia mbali sana.
It's not a handshake.
Anyway, we have a guest in the studio. Dr. Brian Mutie is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and he's a governance commentator. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you doing?
It's been long.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Now, delegate your powers to CT so that he can give you the day's proverb.
This is not delegated power. This is allocated power. Meaning, CT, you are going to be saying the proverbs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Choice is when you are not there, somebody else might say it. Now, a man who doesn't know about war is likely the one who will rush to it.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It's an African proverb.
It is a proverb from the country of Somalia.
Somalia. A man who does not know about war is most likely to run to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your interpretation of it?
Well, I may say that before you make a decision, it's important that you first understand the decision about what you are making that decision about. Yeah, lest you're going to regret.
Now, Dr. Mutie.
Yeah.
It's a PhD in law.
PhD in governance.
In governance.
Masters in law.
Masters in law. You understand matters of law very well.
Matters of law and matters of governance.
Very good. Now let's take what City has just started us off with.
Sure. Please.
Chapter 1 of the Constitution. We the people.
We the people.
And we shall exercise our own sovereignty by delegating it to our elected leaders and institutions.
Yes.
Does that mean power sharing?
Well, that does not mean power sharing, City, from where I'm sitting, from the ambit of the law, because that provision can be looked into two ways. First of all, when you say that the law has been delegated or our responsibilities have been delegated to elected leaders, first of all, it means that we can only exercise our rights through those people we have placed in positions such as MCAs, MPs, governors, and also the presidency, and also senators. The flip side of that is that the same provision has also given people the power to exercise their rights, either directly or directly. Now, where directly is where the rubber meets the road. And directly means that some people may interpret that they have the right to, take power by their own hands. But from where I'm seated in terms of my interpretation is that we have given the so-called right for universal suffrage to participate in electing those leaders. And that's the kind of direct endearing that citizens can actually participate in such kind of exercise in terms of delegating their power and also at the same time exercising directly their power through the people that they have put in places of power.
You say it is your opinion and your interpretation.
Yes.
So if I preferred a different interpretation, would I be equally right?
Well,
would I be equally wrong? would I have a position that could be considered to be equally weighty as yours is?
Well, you might be right one way or the other, because law is about interpretation. It's about how different people are also able to interpret, given in a set of panel. If the matter was to go to a Supreme Court for interpretation, perhaps it may come out in a different way, the way you have put it, or perhaps it may come out differently from the way you have put it. That's why people have the right to seek interpretation of the law in any, judicial, jurisdiction.
Perhaps I could explain why it is I consider it to be power sharing. The way you interpreted it is like you have a 5-year absolutism where I have actually given the power to you, literally.
Yeah.
So you have the power on my behalf, and during that time, I let you function on my behalf. And I'm saying that is not the case. You constantly have to refer to me who has given you power.
Yeah.
And if you constantly have to refer to me, then it means I haven't actually given it to you absolutely. That's really my point. So
You've only delegated.
yes. So so long as you constantly have to refer to me in whatever forum, whether it's Harambe or whatever, then we're sharing it.
Yeah. But then also, CT, you who has delegated
Yes.
can be the only one who decides that I can also delegate the same authority that you've given me.
Well,
All right?
there's no question there, Eric. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
So until you've told me that, you know what, Eric, I've given you power and I want you to share it with Brian, I cannot share it with Brian.
You see, my
Or
argument,
at least I shouldn't share it with Brian.
my argument is actually broader than that. I am saying that even the members of parliament who themselves vote, okay, at some level, they're just citizens.
Yeah.
So whether they were voted in, whether they're in the ruling coalition or not, they're just citizens. So the power that the Constitution gives doesn't diminish simply because they're now members of parliament. As citizens, that power you have never goes anywhere.
Sure. I do agree that power never diminishes. But again, you see, when you talk about power sharing, power itself, now we are talking about all the goodies or the trappings that come with the power. Is there any point, and that's my argument, is there at any point that a citizen will feel the same as the member of parliament whom he has actually delegated the power? Well, we may think about that differently.
Actually, it's not difficult to answer because the reason why we choose one individual from a choice of several others is because there's this feeling or understanding among the voters that this individual will represent our interests in the best way possible.
Yeah.
That's the simple understanding of it. And the reason why you have the processes every 5 years, because we understand that we may change our minds and that individual may actually fail us and may not live up to our expectations. So we may need to perhaps exercise our power to give somebody else an opportunity to try and do the same thing. You see, this is a work in progress, if you ask me, because everything that we're saying, including the delegation of power, I don't think of it in absolute terms. I think of it as an aspiration, because even our understanding of it has to evolve. Because for the longest time, we elected leaders on the belief that watatuletea development, they will bring us development, they'll do this, they'll do the other, and we're beginning to think that's really not it.
Yeah.
So this is the process.
Okay.
Yes. So I have immersed myself in that process, and I am demanding that my role as the sovereign
Be recognized.
precisely, and I'm not letting go of it.
So
Sure,
let's
sure.
get then to the crux of the matter.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely. Sure.
Our nation's political leaders are at a point where they are about to sit down and have a conversation. Okay? Our nation's political leaders seem to have come to a decision, or they're arriving at a decision on what the most important issues to discuss would be. Right? Now, is there a point where we, as the sovereign, have got to endorse that agenda and say, yes, we agree that this, number one, it's important for you to sit and have a conversation, and number two, this is what you're going to discuss?
Yeah, first of all, that's a very good debate in terms of the topic. And it has been an issue when I saw those five point agenda, being enlisted as the most intriguing, the most pressing issues that Wanjiku would want to see being resolved by the potentially five member benches from either side. And that brings the question of the role in terms of citizen participation under Article 118, and of course Article 196 at the county level, and also Article 10, which prescribes elaborately on how citizens can participate in decision making. And now that again ties to what City is asking, whether the power that I have as a citizen, whether it's delegated or is a shared power. And I want to answer this in a very precise way. First of all, the moment we say that we have delegated our power to the people that we have elected, then I think, first of all, it gives those people a legitimate, role to play in terms of negotiating on behalf of the citizens, because we chose them to be there, men and women. But when it comes to that particular issue of the 5-point agenda that have been described, I would say that perhaps we may need to ask ourselves whether once the 5 bench members are constituted, is there another framework? Is there another mechanism that will go deeper again to involve the citizen participation directly now to input on the issues that they are going to discuss, the 5 ones? Is the input from the 5 members going to be enough representative to the needs of the people across the divide? I'll tell you no. Because when you say that those 5 people from either side are going to be solid enough to address these issues to the core, I'll be lying. Because the way we took the BBI route, where we took all the views of the people across the country and then came up with a very robust document, that could
Really?
Yeah.
That's what happened.
That's what happened, because they went across the country, they collected views from the people, and they enriched that document. It became a robust document. And they said this is the voice of the majority of the people. At least you could see there was some bit of citizen participation. But if this route of the 5 agenda is not going to take the same course, I think to me I'll be worried, because 5 people cannot negotiate fully. I'm not saying they cannot, but fully on behalf of 50 plus millions of Kenyans' needs.
I would say your hope is aspirational in terms of inclusion of the people and their opinions, because it seems to me by the time this is already being announced to us, it's a fait accompli. It has already been done. The 5 points have already been established. They're going to have a conversation about it. The contribution of Kenyans is not going to be included in this process. It is 5 people on each side. It is 10 people going to sit in a room and are going to decide what is going to happen. The opinions of Kenyans, if they've not been included in the 5 points which you speak of, one would hope that they would, but that's all it's going to be. It's going to be hope.
But if I follow the trajectory of Dr. Mutie's argument, remember his argument is that we have already delegated powers to these representatives. Is that not so?
Because we voted for them.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
But that's it. Now, among themselves, they have also delegated powers.
Yeah.
So are we saying that when we delegate powers, we don't delegate powers so that somebody has the power to delegate?
Well, let me just come into that. When you say we have delegated our powers to
the person and their assignees.
And the assignees, the 5 aside, let me put it that way. First of all, it means that they are taking our views there to that table, to that negotiating table.
I'm sorry,
Secondly,
please, I have to, I know you're in a list.
They are
Before you go
representatives.
to the second list, the second item on the list,
Okay.
the first one you said, we know that they are taking our needs there by virtue of the fact that they have been elected.
Correct.
So the assumption is that when you elect someone, anything they do in a futurely manner will take your views into consideration. So the assumption here is what you're saying, that the 5 points in their minds as they've come up with them are what Kenyans actually want them to discuss.
But that is the thing.
Yeah.
Is it?
Is it?
That's my question. I'm asking.
Can it be? Because when you've said, Dr. Mutie, we have elected you. But the expectation is that for you to represent me, you've got to keep coming back to me
To me, to
to
us.
know what
Yes.
I want, right? So when you go and sit there at that round table, you should be there representing my views.
Exactly.
Which, like you've said, just like the BBI, which I am not completely 100% in agreement, the BBI team of Kina Paul Mwangi went around the country, sat in boardrooms, collected views from all Kenyans and consolidated them into a document. Should be the same.
Well, when I say that we have delegated our powers to our elected leaders, I am not locking the door for further consultations from the people. We still have avenues for people to bring in their views. What I said is that there is a need for a robust or wider framework where the direct contributions again from the people may find their positions within that document. And when you say that we have delegated to the leaders, that does not automatically, close the chapter for citizen participation per se, because we may come up with a framework which again may solidify this document by further enriching it through also getting views from the people. That's why when you look at some of the dailies, you will see memorandums coming from Parliament, and that is a clarion call for people to enrich that document. That doesn't mean that because I delegated my powers to my member of Parliament is the only person who is supposed to enrich that memorandum. So I have also a duty as a citizen to contribute further and give my views. And that's why the ambit of citizen participation under Article 118 clarifies that. At the county level, Article 196 again enriches that space for people to contribute towards enriching any policy document that may have a direct or indirect overbearing of their lives. And again, the 5-point agenda that we are talking about here has not been fully agreed upon by the five side. This was actually a proposal by Azimio side. We are yet to see, because we also saw the likes of Ishungwa disputing that some of the issues here, like cost of living, have already been addressed and are being addressed as we are talking, because the government is putting policies in place to ensure some of these issues of cost of living and tax issues are addressed. So I will wait until they consolidate or they agree fully on the 5-point agenda that they are talking about. But until this time, we are yet to see the Kenya Kwanza side agreeing to the 5-point that Azimio has actually floated.
Should citizens now bring, because if we look at what we have seen over the weekend, Kenya Kwanza, with that communication that was only signed by Kimani Ichung'wah, seems to have told us what they want to discuss. The issue of entrenchment of the office of the official leader of the opposition, entrenchment of the Prime Cabinet Secretary office, and IEBC and the others. That seems to be the Kenya Kwanza agenda.
Sure.
Because it was disowned by Azimio, who came up with their own agenda and said, we still won't open the server, plus others. So we can see. Now, is there room for citizens in any form or shape to also add their 5 points? Through civic bodies and such, to also say, we as Kongamano la Mapinduzi, la Mageuzi, as Kenya Tuipendayo, as whatever group, Okoa Uchumi, Okoa Mombasa, this is what we'd like to be considered.
First of all, once they agree on the 5-point agenda and they come up with a robust document according to their take. Citizens also have a right to participate in this, and I believe.
But why are you saying once they agree?
Because they have not yet agreed on the 5-point agenda.
But why do they have to agree on their points without our input?
Okay, what I'm trying to say, because we have already delegated our powers for them to agree, we'll assume that whatever they have come up with is what is representative of the interests of the people.
I think that assumption is dangerous.
It is dangerous because once this document, and I believe it will find its, a way to Parliament for people to contribute by ways of emails, ways of written memorandum, ways of letters, expressing their views towards this document. Because when you look at some of the ways in which way we did the BBI, there was also that opportunity for people, organizations, CSOs, and members of civil society, individuals, to bring out what they feel. This is my take. This is what I want to be entrenched in this document. This is what I feel will address some of the challenges that I'm facing as a citizen or as a group of citizens. And therefore, to me, if that framework is designed in such a way, that roadmap is created in a way that Wanjiku will also entrench his views into that document, to me, I'll be happier. But without that, I think I'll say that it's a little bit limiting and worrying, in the sense that 5 aside will be taking the views of 50 plus million views to that document.
If we're going to have a conversation about whatever we want to call it, delegated responsibility, power sharing, agreement, whatever it is going to be. And this is why I keep saying that if you're talking about 5 points, these 5 points have already been arrived at, void of citizens' input. It has already been demarcated. Now, I'm saying, if truly this one that everybody keeps throwing it about Mora and Wajiko, and it's about the people, you would have asked the people in the beginning, hello guys, are we okay? Then Kenyans can say no, or they can say yes. Now, if they say no, they will now say, these are the things that we are not okay about. As you people squibble inside that room, just to know, the 50, because let's say the 49,900,000, because those of you inside that room are not beyond that.
Yeah.
The 49 million plus.
Okay.
These are the issues that they have. And what I'm saying is, this talk that is being had, it's about a few people. People should not be deceived that it is taking into consideration the thoughts and the minds of Kenyans at large. It is not. It is about a few people. They are the ones who are having the conversation in the room. Whatever they decide is going to be the fate of Kenyans tomorrow.
The clapback from Azimio Ndu will be, you see, this issue of the cost of living. We have been going around the country the past 7 months. We have interacted and engaged with the citizens. And the number one pain point for Kenyans, cost of living. Okay? The number 2 pain point for Kenyans is they voted, they elected their leadership. They are not sure how that election was conducted. So they want to audit the election. We have heard it from the people because we have gone around the country. The number 3 point is that they elected their leaders, and those leaders are being robbed and stolen when they go to parliament. Okay? And we want to make sure that our system is safeguarded so that the people that we elect to go to parliament are not bought with 30 pieces of silver. Those are the issues that the people of Kenya have told us as Azimio, because we've gone around the country. They will tell you that, my friend. Very many people, even on our social media handles, and it's even been quoted in the Standard headline today, people are saying we want these talks to be live streamed. We want to see what's being discussed by everybody, not closed door conversations, and then you come out and step outside the steps of Harambee House and shake hands. No. We want to see. So this basically is talking about the citizens need to feel involved in this entire journey. Where should this journey start?
First of all, citizens have all the right to information under the Constitution, and to follow such kind of proceedings live, to me, I think it's a good idea, although a little bit overambitious. In the sense that this being a high voltage sort of discussion, I would think of the National Accord 2008, which was led by one Kofi Annan, which brought the two sides of PNU and the orange and the bananas by so then into a discussion. And to me, that kind of approach was good. We were not seeing everything live, but at least citizens could be treated to some inserts or some sections which were live broadcasted. And if we can borrow something from that, because the National Accord, that agreement, that negotiation, brokered something that I can say we are reaping the fruits as of today. And if the same model can be adopted, I think we may lose nothing, because there's nothing wrong by exposing also what is happening, by at least bringing citizens to speed to what's happening. But again, it may not happen because of one reason or the other. One reason being that, as the city wants to say it, citizens have already delegated their powers to the negotiators. And having done so, they would want to be told that trust your leader, trust your negotiator, because you put him there or you put her there, that person is taking care of your agenda.
Terry, we do not trust these people. They just happen to have been elected and they're there. The issue of trust is a completely different
conversation.
Yes.
Okay, so the idea is you have to, now that you have delegated your power to this particular leader, where I come from, we say when you take in a dog, you don't bark at the same time.
Who, so, you or the dog?
you as a person.
Oh, right, okay.
You let the dog do the barking.
Why don't you say do the biting?
You let the dog do the barking. So on this case also, bringing it home, closer is that you let your member or your representative do the barking or do the talk.
Okay.
Yeah. But then the same constitution says that leader must consult you.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So we cannot really run away from that. That they are expected to constantly have conversations with me. But we've also seen the nature of our politics in this country. Just the same way. Let's go with the BBI. The BBI tours around the country. Kisii, then one in Mombasa, the other one in was it in Kitui?
Meru,
and the Meru one, right? Those ones were supposed to be citizen engagements, but we all know what was happening. Leaders come, they stand out there, they talk, and then they produce a document and they call this the Makueni Declaration, the Mombasa Declaration, the Gusii Declaration, which did not really have sufficient engagement with the people. So if we say that we trust that our elected leaders, when they're going into this room, they have our points, mandate. How can we actually prove that what they have,
first of all,
represents a majority of our thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, once the 10-a-side or the 5-a-side meet, I think they have an opportunity to have what in law, or what I would equate in law as a pre-trial or sort of a pre-trial conference. They have to sit down and chart out a roadmap on how they are going to approach the whole process. And I will not be surprised if one of the ingredients of the roadmap will be to ensure that they also have a tour, countrywide tour, to collect more views from the people. Because at that point they are allowed, although there is no robust framework to guide them on how to conduct their business at that point, but if I was to sit in that kind of platform, it would be advisable for them to chart a good roadmap that would include the role of the citizens in terms of their input and how they are going to contribute in terms of enriching their views. Because as you said, the 5-point agenda that has been brought out may be limiting. There may be other issues that perhaps are more pressing. As much as the leaders would want to say we have gone around the country, we have heard the voice of the people, and that these are the most key pressing issues that need to be taken. I think to me, the document should not be limited to 5, because there are more pressing needs for the people that need also to be addressed. And that platform may open up that avenue for more enrichment of the document.
You know, the discussions that we are now talking about, the ones which are in our headlines,
yes,
they very clearly mirror the discussions that have been had. I want to take stock of discussions such as this one that we've had before and the successes we've had with them. The one we had, was it 2007? Was it 2008?
2008.
Yes. We saw what happened. Okay? The handshake that happened in 2018,
the 9-point agenda.
Yeah. That was two people having a handshake.
Yeah.
Okay? Different sort of scenario. Now, and the circumstances around it are also different. If you ask those who are in the know and they give you their version of the story, because there's always more than one version. So right now, what are we discussing exactly? Are we discussing what the Mwananchi feels to be their priority, or are we discussing what it is that we have been told are our priority, or are we discussing what has been negotiated as what is acceptable to be discussed by these two groups who seem to be at loggerheads? I actually think they are not at loggerheads, if you ask me. Not really. Not really. Politicians, when they speak, one mustn't take everything they say at face value. You need to interpret it. There are people who speak and they are the litmus test. They are told to speak so that we can see exactly how people are going to respond to these things. Now you can decide who you think is a litmus test for both parties. But if you ask me the principles, they have a very clear understanding of what needs to be discussed.
Sure.
Okay? And a lot of the discussions we are going to have very little to do with what they think or what they want. They've already been told what to discuss and the path that they're supposed to follow. So,
I do agree.
oh, you agree?
I do agree.
Who has told them?
The masters, of course.
No, I am going to be specific. If it isn't the UK, then it is Americans or some IMF. If you talk about these financial issues in the finance bill, these Bretton Woods organizations are the ones who normally come up with the ridiculous demands that they keep making on people to follow. It's a rule book. It's to the letter. That's them. And it looks like we are set to follow them. As for whether we should behave, when you hear of Moderna setting up, Google has done this, God knows who has come here. Those people come here with conditionality, tell you, Nani, we are bringing these things to your country, but on the understanding. And whether it's the leader of the opposition or whether it's the president, none of them are immune to what they're going to be told. So I personally am going to sit back and watch as we come to some sort of agreement that we will be told is what the Kenyans want.
Oh, so
That
you
is-
say, you feel
Yes.
that actually the principals already have an idea what they ought to discuss.
Oh, yes.
And this is what they've been told, not by their sovereign, but by some external powers.
They have been told. Those who are kind will say they've been given guidelines as is, this is the path you need to follow. This thing that you guys keep having, this Kenyan thing of disagreeing about election results back and forth, this is what you're going to. This story of let's have a position of the official opposition, it came out early. We should have taken note of it. We're being told this is the path.
Yeah.
But then we got sidetracked by very many other issues that happened in between. But now we are back there. Just listen very carefully to what Azimio is saying and listen very carefully to what Kenya Kwanza are telling you they want to discuss. Just listen very carefully. In there, you will understand exactly the path that is going to, not might be followed, will be followed. And you can even predict what the results will be.
So do you have anything to do with it as
No.
the sovereign? We
the
The
sovereign.
sovereign are not involved in this conversation, except for when the framework that you talk about then will be announced to the people. That's when you'll see the sovereign.
just to come in and rubber
Just
stamp
to rubber stamp it.
what
and
the boss has decided.
it will be said that the sovereign, according to the will of the people, we then, having had this conversation and this discussion and these deliberations over time, have done what is in best regard
What are
or
you people
interest of the
saying?
people
Are you
of
people
Kenya.
saying that we are not an independent republic of
No,
Kenya?
no,
can be
no, no, no.
independent
We
as
are very
well. If you
independent.
like, very
No, we are
independent.
extremely
Are you
independent.
saying that our constitution's chapter 1 is just
No,
mere
no,
words?
I'm not saying anything
No.
of that
We
sort.
the
No.
We the people.
exercising
Actually,
our sovereignty.
Eric,
Yeah.
the sovereign is actually at the heart of this discussion
Let me know how.
because the individuals I speak of, they are not some dark, dreary individuals in some dark corner who represent a demon. No, they're just individuals who have interests. They are cognizant of this person we call the sovereign. They are. And they, more than anybody else, do not want a situation where the sovereign actually exercises his power to the fullest extent. They understand. The fight, the discussion is about not the minds and the vote of the people of this country, but the soul of the people of this country. It is understood. You cannot have a situation where your plans progress peacefully and quietly if the sovereign is not at ease. So the understanding is find a formula that will put the sovereign at
His
ease.
place.
At his place.
In his place.
At ease. I said at ease.
Keeping a sovereign at ease is like, just making sure that the sovereign is tethered to the corner.
And has some food
And
there.
some food, yes.
Water.
You're constantly making sure that the bowl has something.
May I ask the two of you to take a deep breath? Breathe in, breathe out.
Yes.
Do it one more time. Breathe in, breathe out. Now, you're probably right, but
Let me say this. In terms of the big man syndrome. I mean, the big brother watching, and City is insinuating that
no.
the principles.
I'm not insinuating.
Saying.
I'm actually
saying it
stating
plain.
it.
You are saying
Point blank.
It's clear.
It's black
I'm
and
telling
white.
you, I'm stating it. Yes.
Okay. it seems to state that there is a gun on the neck of the principals, and the end result is already known. And well, first of all, until we iron out the 5-point agenda to the fullest, to concretize them and say, indeed, these are the 5 points that we are going to discuss, is when we can actually start talking about this issue in fullest. One issue that I want to say is that cost of living, which is actually enlisted as a first item, may not find a strong bath or position.
Which one? This cost of living story?
Cost of living. Because when you listen to the likes of Ichung'wah, who is saying that we have already put measures in terms of our governance, administrative issues,
to make sure that you're living costly.
Exactly. To make sure that not living
That
costly,
the cost
but
goes
the cost
beyond
of
your
living
means.
goes down. Well, that may be a bone of contention at that point, because they may be adamant, the government side. They may be a little bit adamant that this is a non-negotiating item, and therefore need to be replaced perhaps by something else, because they're arguing, or the government is arguing, that in our day-to-day administrative duty, we are putting measures in place, tax issues, negotiating with other development partners in terms of how to address the whole set of cost of living. So that may not find a strong bath within the negotiating list of items. And until now, when they agree on the 5, which I'm still waiting now, because the sentiments of Ichung'wah were very worrying, that's not an issue. So until we find them concretized, and now we are being told these are the 5 issues that have been discussed, then is when we shall now start addressing these issues from our mental thought process. I want to say the conference that I would want to see happening between the two sides when they sit down to work should come up with a good, robust framework and iron out whether the 5 issues really meet the threshold of what people want to see being addressed. And that's where I'm not going to be surprised if the issue of cost of living is going to be knocked out of the agenda item. Now, the issues of IBC, the issues of audit, those are very pertinent issues that, of course, everybody is waiting with bated breath.
Are you serious?
Yeah, of course. This is a thorny issue. This is a hot issue, Eric. And I tell you,
the issue of
in fact, this will be the
IBC.
toughest. IBC. In fact, in terms of the constitution of the team and the roadmap that they will adopt in terms of coming up with a set of commissioners who will address the issue of IBC in the future. I'm saying this because when you look at the first set of selected panel that had already been put in place, first of all, we have not addressed that one. What is their place? They were 7 in number, if I'm not wrong. And we would want to see, and according to Azimio side, of course, they are representative of the government of the day. There is no representation of the Azimio side. So we are likely to see perhaps the team, first of all, being disbanded either, or the team expanded, first of all, to meet the expectations of the other side. Now, how to come up with the 7, to the other commissioners now, will be now where the biggest challenge is, because some of the protagonists within the two sides are arguing that we need to do an overhaul of the whole electoral system, have a system which is a little bit different to this one. Some may argue we go the electoral colleges way, which we may define as counties. And
wouldn't that then have to require constitutional change? Changing the constitution. Right?
No, the structure of the IBC may require some bit of legislation. Yes. That's why the 5-team member may now find their findings or whatever they have come up with, finding its way to Parliament for legislation purposes to go through all the stages that need to do.
These people are not interested in touching that electoral system that we have.
Yeah,
it works for them.
Yeah. Are we going over and above? Do we really think that this committee does not know what is needed in this country to be done?
They do.
Do you think that the individuals who make up this team are tone deaf, or they're blind to see what the issues really are? So now we want to start forming committee to start discussing, and then we want to now guise it that it is because Kenyans have issues, and then therefore we need to come and negotiate so that these issues can then be sorted out. Are you kidding me? Is this not a waste of time and resources that can be well spent to make sure that other things are done?
Sure.
Or are we not still looking at the fact that there is a side that's slighted and there is a side who also maybe has made some mistakes and is not willing to come to the table to discuss them? But now here we are talking about, oh, well, you know, the needs of Kenyans also need to be addressed. The needs of Kenyans also in terms of electoral reform also need to be addressed. And it is this committee that is going to sit down and discuss the way forward. And we actually are sitting here believing that the committee will come up with the way forward and then they will implement those things.
And that's why we said during the potential conference that may arise from the Fiverr side, at the pre-conference, it's what I call the pre-trial conference in law, or a sort of equated platform, where they sit down and come up with a clear roadmap with the issues that are going to be discussed being ironed out at that level, agreed concretely that these are the issues that we are going to address, and this is the mode that we are going to take to address these issues. If they agree that we are also going to involve citizens directly,
If they agree.
then I think that will be a win-win for
That's
citizens.
where they will make the
That's the
mistake.
problem.
No, I don't think so, because
That is where they will have gone completely
I don't
wrong.
think I don't think it will be a wayward decision if they go that route.
It will be so far left field.
You see,
Why don't you think so?
I don't think so,
gives
because
you this
the Constitution
confidence?
itself has given the citizens the leeway to participate in such high-level decision-making processes through the Constitution and Article 118 and Article 196 at the county level. Also, the same citizens have the same path to contribute towards what they feel interests them. So, if that pre-trial conference, if I may put it that way, will open that door for citizens to contribute, then I think the Constitution will have actually been, lived up to.
Daktari, we do not need a door to be open for us. That door is always open.
No,
There
for
are
that
no conditionalities in our constitution where we are told as citizens you can only participate on a rainy day. Okay? No.
But citizens want
every third
city.
Tuesday.
Or
Just
every
look
third
at-
Tuesday of the
Yeah,
month.
but citizens have to participate in something that is of interest at that particular point. We also participate on a day-to-day, activities in terms of our governance. That does not lock us out. But on this particular context, Bwana CT is what I'm saying. People's voice need to be heard. If that pre-conference opens that leeway, to me it will be a win-win for the citizens of this country.
The issue of the people's voice being heard was perhaps hinted at and then spoken of rather loudly when this committee that we are now speaking about, there was a push to have it expanded beyond parliament, to have civil societies, religious organizations, and all other people who represent, again, people's interests in the country to be brought in. Eric has been saying this for the very longest time. He said, this thing, we need to have a national conversation. These things we're talking about, where we've gotten to, we've experimented with this constitution long enough. We need to have a national conversation and see, how is this thing working for us? Now, we are saying that this is in lieu of that particular conversation and that it will be adequately representative. It won't be.
Well, if you say so. And that issue of Eric said that we need to have a national dialogue, national conversation about the Constitution and its constitutionalism itself. To me, I do agree, because as an international practice everywhere, countries take stock of their constitutions after every 10 years and they see how it has performed, how it has treated them, and how it has addressed some of the challenges that they anticipated. So we adopted this constitution in 2010. Now it's 2023, 3 years down the line. It's 13 years or so, and we have not sat down and iron out some of the small issues that have been teething ever since we started implementing this constitution. And the BBI way, to me, I think had some good insights that could have been borrowed in chanting the way that you are propagating. The BBI was not a bad document altogether, and that's has always been my position. It has had some good issues that perhaps could have been borrowed, and that's why the issue of creation of the office of the opposition, it was in the BBI. The president himself has been actually a good champion, has been propagating for this idea that we may need to have a discussion around that issue.
The problem with that whole thing is As you can see,
Yeah.
our political leaders realize and they know that we are due for a conversation, but they are attempting to hijack that conversation. They want to call it BBI and try and bring it all and then tell us that we had a conversation. They want to make it a memorandum to the speakers of the National Assembly and the Senate in terms of proposing maybe you guys in Parliament can discuss, maybe, you know, we can create maybe an office, maybe, I don't know, but it's upon you, maybe ministers can be coming to Parliament. That is politicians hijacking a moment that is ripe and it is due. We must go back to Bomas and discuss our constitution. They have hijacked and now we have not even reviewed our boundaries. It is such a difficult conversation to have right now. We are supposed to be revising our boundaries and looking at our boundaries. According to the constitution, the politicians have hijacked that whole story. We don't have an IABC, so who's going to revise our boundaries?
And in case, and God forbid, we have a demise over any politician, a governor,
Kwisha Sisi,
because there's no IABC in place. That's also another worrying trend. So the faster they, upgrade. I mean, the faster they discuss this issue, the better for the country.
The louder we call them out,
the louder we call them out,
the sooner they come and realize that we know what they're up to.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Dr. Brian Mutie is an advocate of the High Court and is also a governance expert.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.